The mind believes that more thinking will lead to more clarity. But often, the opposite happens. At first, thinking feels responsible, careful, intelligent. You replay conversations, analyze decisions, imagine outcomes. You tell yourself that if you just think a little longer, the right answer will appear. Yet over time, something subtle changes. Life feels heavier. Choices feel riskier. Even simple actions begin to feel complicated. This is where many people get stuck, not because they lack intelligence, but because they rely on it too much. I learned this slowly, not from books at first, but from noticing how often my own thinking delayed my living. The more I tried to understand every possible angle, the less I trusted myself to act. Thinking gave the illusion of control, but it quietly took something away: ease. The ancient philosophers were familiar with this trap. Long before the word overthinking existed, they warned about a mind that refuses to rest in the present. Marcus Aurelius wrote that most of our suffering does not come from events themselves, but from the judgments we attach to them. In other words, life becomes difficult not because of what happens, but because of what we add. Overthinking is rarely about curiosity. It is usually about fear. Fear of choosing wrong, fear of regret, fear of being exposed as someone who does not fully know what they are doing. So the mind keeps working, searching for certainty in a world that does not offer it. Søren Kierkegaard described this as the dizziness of freedom. When you realize that your life is shaped by your choices, the responsibility can feel overwhelming. Thinking becomes a way to delay that responsibility. As long as you are still deciding, you cannot fail, but you also cannot move. The irony is that thinking promises safety, yet produces anxiety. Each new thought opens another possibility, another doubt, another reason to hesitate. The mind multiplies paths faster than life can be lived. I once believed that clarity was something you arrived at before acting, that wise people somehow knew in advance which path was correct. Over time, experience corrected this belief. Clarity rarely precedes action. It follows it. Life reveals itself while you are participating, not while you're standing back trying to solve it. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus reminded his students that we suffer not because of events, but because of our constant interpretation of them. When the mind insists on understanding everything before engaging, it separates itself from experience. Thinking becomes a barrier instead of a tool. This does not mean thinking is the enemy. Reflection has its place. But when thinking replaces living, it turns inward and becomes self-consuming. You stop listening to the world and start negotiating endlessly with yourself. There is a quieter way to live. It begins by noticing when thinking no longer serves understanding, but avoidance. When thoughts circle without resolution. When questions multiply instead of settle. In those moments, the task is not to think harder, but to return to what is simple and concrete. What is actually in front of you. What can be done now, even imperfectly. Many of the philosophers we admire did not live carefully optimized lives. They lived engaged ones. They accepted uncertainty as part of being human. They acted without guarantees, not recklessly, but honestly. Life becomes lighter when you allow it to be lived rather than solved. You do not need to understand everything to take the next step. You do not need to think your way into certainty. You only need enough clarity to move and enough humility to adjust as you go. When thinking softens, attention returns to this present. Choices become simpler, not because they are easier, but because they are no longer burdened with imagined futures. Time stops feeling like a problem to manage and starts feeling like something to inhabit. Perhaps the mind was never meant to carry the full weight of life. Perhaps its role is to guide, not to dominate. And when you allow thinking to rest, even briefly, you may notice something unexpected. Life does not become perfect, but it becomes more honest. And often, that is enough.